That's a beautiful arrangement too by Cedar Walton.
Oh.
Amazing. Oh, that's Eric Marienthal. This is from a concert in Prague, actually.
Oh, really?
It is, yeah. I recognized it. Well, I recognize Eric's playing, of course.
Oh.
Isn't he a great player?
Incredible.
Well, I remember meeting him when he was about in high school. You know, I think he's from around Costa Mesa or somewhere down in that area of California.
Yeah, me too. I remember that too. He was just a kid.
Yeah, well, I used to do adjudications or whatever you call them, listening to high school bands and stuff, and went to those college. You know? I remember hearing him and Wayne Berger, I don't know, all these guys, you know. There's Mike Clemens, a whole bunch of them. They all went on to have major careers, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, Mr. Monster, man. Really great.
Are you live now?
I'm live, yes. And we're just listening and I'm doing some administrative stuff.
All right.
But they're seeing your face, man.
This is so cool that you do these things. When I found out about them, I go, my God, where does she get the time and the energy to do all of that?
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Well, you've always been an energetic person. All the 50 years I've known you, you've always had like an energy.
It's true. I have been very...
Sparks flying off of your hair and stuff like that. I can't believe we've known each other 50 years. Is that hard to believe?
It's very hard to believe.
More than 50 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just finishing my little administrative stuff. We're listening to Bobby, his quintet performing Skylar in Prague, right?
Yeah, it's in Prague. It's a jazz club in Prague, Czech Republic.
Oh, there's Matt Harris.
Matt's there, yeah, and Dennis DeKrell's playing drums. And the Czech bass player, Tomas.
Let's see if...
I think the entire gig is on YouTube somewhere. I don't know much about YouTube. I don't go there. People just send me stuff, and other people post it. I don't know how to do it.
Yeah, I'm going to share the screen in a second, so people can see it. There we go. Yeah, man.
Hi, this is Marissa Peer, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about
I
art.
don't want to hear you. I want to hear Bobby Shew. Okay.
That's nice to hear that again. I haven't, it was a couple of, I don't remember, a couple of years ago, 2 or 3. You know who's sitting in the front table right in front of the bandstand?
Who?
Is Denise Donatelli and her husband.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How funny. Wow, that's interesting.
I brought her over there to do a concert with the Czech National Symphony Orchestra. And she was, I think she told me it was her first time to perform in Europe. I'm sure you know her.
I do.
She's such a delight, such a beautiful singer and a delightful person. But it was great for me because I'm on the board of directors for that symphony, and they give me, they want me to connect up and bring concerts people over there too. I brought Randy Brecker over there and different people anyway.
Yeah.
But the night before this concert, the quintet one we just heard, the night previous to that, Denise did a concert with the symphony. It came out on a DVD on them. And
oh, beautiful.
Eric and I were up front playing, so was Dennis and Matt.
Yeah.
And I was conducting the orchestra, so
nice.
Matt and I worked really hard to write up charts for her symphony, because what she had was like combo stuff on her albums, so we had to expand it for the symphony orchestra.
Oh, wow, that's cool. Yeah, that's cool.
But I just love working with her. She's a delight.
Yeah, she's fun. Strangely enough, she and my sisters went to college together. And this was like a junior college in Boston. and you know, you can imagine how many years ago this was. And then we came across each other in LA, and we found out that she went to school with my sisters.
Huh.
So that was pretty fun. She's
Small world and shrinking, you know. I mean, you know, the thing about her, just how we ended up talking about her, but she studied as a classical piano player. That's what
oh,
she did.
that's
She was
something
young.
I didn't know.
Yeah, she was a classical pianist as a kid,
Wow.
growing up doing all the Hannon and Czerny's and all that stuff, I guess, you know. And
Wow.
somewhere along the line, she started singing, and boy, blessed us. Huh?
And the rest is history,
Boy, yeah,
as they say.
exactly. So,
I'm
Kathy,
Shew.
it's so cool, man. You were just you were so amazing to me, man.
It's so nice to see you and be able to, wow, we're going to hang here. I think the last time we really hung was at that Gen conference a few years ago. That was a good hang.
Yeah, that was those things. That's sometimes the better part of those things is just being able to
Yeah.
sit around with all the other cats and hang out, you know. And I think Doug Lawrence was at the table with us then.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Remember that?
right. And Dan
And
Hurley was there too.
who was?
Dan Hurley.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
Mr. Harley, I called him.
He's
Daniel
so
Harley.
cute, man. I remember, so I taught at Janice Borla's jazz vocal camp several times. The first time, this guy comes and picks me up at the airport, and I said, "Hi." And he said, "Hi, yeah, you're Kathy, right?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "I'm Dan Hurley." And I was like, "What? You're Dan Hurley from like Jamie Abersol? You're Dan Hurley?" And he said, "Yeah."
Yeah, I met him a long time ago. He was teaching at ASU in Tempe, Arizona, and
Yeah.
I was there. We were doing the Stars Born movie with Barbara and Chris, you know, and so we were at. Well, they filmed almost all of that Stars Born movie back in those days was at Gamage Auditorium and you know the whatever on the stage there at Arizona State University, and but right next to it was the music building, and I went in there one day, and there's Dan Hurley. It's the first time I ever met him. That was 1974 or something like that, you know. But we've taught and hung and done played and so forth. He's just a brilliant musician and player and so forth, and
Yeah.
fun cat to be around too, you know.
Yeah. All
And
of
you
them.
know, all these years later, I mean, we look at each other and we all our hairs change color and our waist size has changed color and size rather. Probably. But yeah, he's an amazing cat. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. You know, I'm sure, and for you, probably even more intense because you've had so many thousands of of experiences. It's just interesting to look back. And of course, the past is the past. It's just basically memories, right? It's really about the present. But it's
Exactly.
but it's just so interesting to look back. Like doing these interviews is ridiculously fun and kind of mind blowing to me because of all the people that I know, actually, you know, over all the years, you know.
I agree. I've got people bugging me to write a book, you know,
Yeah.
a biography of some sort. I
That would,
really don't. I resist that because I read a lot of them. You
yeah.
know, I've just gee, I don't know how many biographies of musicians I've read. I just finished. Um, I finished one of Barbara Streisand, believe it or not.
Oh,
That you know, I worked with her a lot of times and recorded with her and so forth, and plus did that whole Stars Born movie. But I you know played with her an awful lot, even just different situations. And I know that she has a reputation of being very demanding and kind of tough, but and I saw some characteristics, but I had a crush on her all the time I was working with her anyway, you know, you know, because I loved the way she sang and she carried herself with an air of confidence about herself at all times. You know, she knows what she wants, and
yeah.
I like you know when people have a sense of determination and you know have a sense of a voice of their own and pursue that, have the courage to stick with it. You got to respect that, and I always did. And I saw her excuse me, when we were doing The Star Is Born, she and Frank Pearson, who was the director, argued about things a lot. But we were like, we had to be like there, dressed, and their makeup and everything at 6 o'clock, 6:30 in the morning, and sometimes, and we didn't get home until like 4:30 or 5 in the afternoon. And sometimes we didn't do anything except sit around because they were filming other things, but we had to be ready just in case, And every once in a while there would be a little snappy do, but every once in a while Barbara would come back and smile at the horn section. It was the horn section on that movie was Charlie Owens and Jack Redman and me. We had Booker T on organ, and we had all of these great players in this so-called band called the Speedway Band, I think, as I recall. It was backing up. Anyway, I just love watching Barbara, and she would work all day with us, with everybody, calling all the shots, and then we would have jam sessions in the hotel at night, and we're wondering, where's Barbara? And she's in editing and all of that, and watching all of the stuff that was filmed all day long. Does this woman ever sleep? I wonder.
No. Yeah. Very intense.
Kind of energy.
Yeah. What a brilliant person.
Anyway, people ask me, as I say, to write a book, but I don't really want to write a book about me. If I write a book, it would be something about the people what I've observed, being afforded the opportunity to be in this business I've been on the road 61 years, and I've played with a few folks,
A few.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, I was somebody was bugging me not too long ago, and I thought, if I were to write a book, what would I call it? It's not going to be the Bobby Shew story, that's for sure. So I was in my pool one day doing some exercise and thinking about what would I call the book. I came up with a good title. It's called Bits and Pieces of a Somewhat Negligible Career. That's perfect.
That's funny.
I think that fits actually perfectly for me, I don't want it to be about me. I'm not like a Freddie Hubbard or a Dizzy. I'm not. Those guys need books. I don't need one.
Oh, God.
Anyway.
Freddie used to come and hang out at my jam session. He never played, but he came and he'd sit at the bar and hang out.
Was it?
Freddie Hubbard, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This jam for the first part of the jam was 7 years. It was at the Sportsman's Lodge. Remember that place?
Sure, I do. Yeah.
And it was great. It was the best session there. Later, it got a little kind of stupid, but
I remember there, and I played there several times. Actually, that it was part of a hotel or something. It was.
Yeah. There was like just two places: the hotel, and then all the food places on the other side, and with events. They had big events there because they had lots of rooms. Yeah, but yeah. But I should say some hellos here. Craig Pallett.
Oh my God, there was holy cow! My God, Craig Pallett studied with me about 134 years ago.
That's all.
I mean, he's a genius of a scientist mind, kind of a guy. He's a very good trumpet player. He's from California, southern, I think Orange County, somewhere around down there. But he studied with me probably in the early 70s, around there. I moved to California in 1972, in September 72. And I was fortunate enough to be known enough that people started calling me immediately for studio work,
Yeah.
And people were like shaking their heads, said, geez, you just moved to town 3 days ago and you're already like doing 2 sessions a day. A lot of it was due to people like John Audino and Chuck Finley and ones that I had known for years and played with, and they knew I was in town, and so they just kept sending me around, and they would get called, and Chuck would get double booked, and he'd send me in to cover him for this and that, and I was very fortunate. But Craig studied with me back in those days.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
I'm going to ask you about your history, but first I want to continue saying hello from John LaBarbera.
Oh, Johnny boy. The Barber family, I mean, that's scary. Those guys, Pat, John, and Joe. Joe's on some of my recordings, and Pat and I have played together numerous times. We taught up at Skidmore College in upstate New York for a number of years. And of course, John, brilliant trumpet player and composer, arranger, and John used to be up at Skidmore College too. But that's great. It's nice to hear from him.
Yep. And let's see. Oh, Joe Azzarello joined too. Do you remember?
Oh my God, I haven't seen him in like decades. I think he moved to San Diego or something like that. And
He did.
yeah,
Yep, he did.
brilliant.
Yep. It's
piano
been a
player.
long time that he and I haven't seen each other either. Long, 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 long time. Let's see. Hardin Butcher.
Yeah, this is a new guy. He just had I think he's only had one lesson with me recently. Very nice guy. Very nice. I meet some of the most beautiful people, in the world. Isn't it that the greatest thing about, there's something special about music that it's not affordable if you're a plumber or something like that. I mean, but you meet so many wonderful, creative people in this industry, worldwide, and they become it becomes family. I think, that's the one thing I think, especially with jazz musicians and people in our field, on our side of the coin, because I remember talking to, I won't say names because that would be embarrassing, but I've talked to some guys in symphony orchestras, and I said, do you guys in the trumpet section ever get together and hang out? He said, oh God, no, I don't want to be around them. I can't stand to be around. It's all I can do is sit next to them in the section. I'm going, can you imagine a job like that? I mean,
No.
I'm so thrilled when I'm standing next to, somebody and great players and stuff like that. I'm sitting there and there's Harry Sweets Edison or Blue Mitchell or Snooky Young or these kinds of players are standing around me. I'm going, holy, I'm pinch myself. That's all I do.
When you were young, were you where were you from?
Albuquerque, where I live not in Albuquerque. I'm about 15 miles outside now, but I was born and raised here.
Oh. And so did you immediately start playing trumpet or
At 10 years old, my stepfather, he's my second stepfather. My mom couldn't make up her mind, it seemed. But she married this guy by the name of Shew when I was about 5. And when I was about 8 or 9 years old, they did a spring cleaning and pulled out junk out of a closet. And he had played the trumpet for a couple or 3 years in elementary school. And so this trumpet came out of the closet and he picked it up and tried to play on it. It was the worst sounding thing I'd ever heard in my life. God awful. But I was looking at this thing and I'd never seen a trumpet before, so I was like, wow, look at that, And whenever they'd leave me with a babysitter, I'd sneak in that closet and pull that thing out and look at it, And I had been going to parochial school from first through 4th grade, and spending most of my time on my knees trying to figure out what the heck a Holy Ghost was, But anyway, I begged my parents. I said, God, let me get into the public school with the kids in the neighborhood. So first day of school in the 5th grade, the lady came around and asked, would any of you kids like to join the band? And I went, my hands shot up in the air. And she said, well, you get this book and you do that. And I went home and borrowed the horn and got started. And he sat with me for about 45 minutes and showed me a couple of basic things. And I never saw him again after that. Never came to a concert or anything but it was cool. But I got started and it was a very natural, easy thing for me because he showed me a couple of simple things that were exactly right. And I show those to kids right now, and it's exactly what they need,
Really?
And students, I can make a lot of good, quick corrections with people's chops.
What are they? What are those things?
One of the things that most people play too tight for brass instruments,
Yeah.
They're told a lot of wrong information from some teachers, and they're told to put your lips together and buzz and go. Okay, well, if you if you do that on a trumpet, watch what that sounds like. So if that's the sound you're looking for, there's how to do it, you know. All you can do is get kazoo at best, you know. But you have to open up and let the air flow through so it sets up a vibration. And I did that on the trumpet. I went like that, you know. He said, no, drop your jaw and open that up. So I went, drop my jaw. Oh, hell, these things are easy to play. That was like in the first 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And so I had a very easy, natural way of, with the horn. He showed me how to read and showed me how to finger the scales up and down. And that was it. And I was on my way. And I went to beginning band the first day, and I could already play. So they sent me back to class. And I went to advanced band on the second day, and I did. And got
Oh, gosh.
But I had a natural knack I could easily read, and I was like good in math and things of that sort all the time, and good visual stuff. So for whatever, I thought everybody was like that. I didn't think there was anything special, but I don't know. Anyway, I started at 10 years old, and I played my first gig when I was 12 for a wedding, and the leader cheated me out of the money on the first night. Welcome to the music business.
and this is what it's going to be like.
Exactly. But you know, I had a great time. I was playing a steady gig in a steakhouse at age 15 in the 9th grade, and I did that all the way through, pretty much through high school, and into college a bit until I went into the military. So I learned on the bandstand. I never had a lesson in my life, you know.
Wow. Interesting, right?
No
So,
problem.
and what about the reading? Because obviously you got to be a great reader. So that just came from experience
Oh,
and
my stepfather showed me how it's all math, visual math in a
yeah,
sense. You know?
yeah,
It's a way once you can figure out how to subdivide the beats in a measure, and then when they
Yeah.
get a little more complicated, you know, like 6/8 or 12/8 or 3/4 and things or whatever. And then Don Ellis came on the road, and it was 13/4 or whatever. You know, but
we had a few people who were with Don Ellis on the show, and so we watched some of that, you know, on YouTube. And damn,
oh
man.
well, Lisa and I used to go hear the band all the time live. I had a lot of friends that were playing in the band, you know.
Yeah.
And, I knew Don, you know. I mean, kind of. He was introduced to me by a guy that used to work for the Con company and provided him a horn and so forth like that. But
That was a crazy
very
man.
unique guy, though. You know, I knew him he was on Maynard's band and some stuff like that. So I kind of knew him, you know. But
Oh, he was on Maynard's band. So
yeah,
you weren't with Andy McIntosh on that band, were you?
no, I was on way before Andy was there.
Really? Because Andy was there a long
Yeah,
time
he came
ago.
on from the British band in '68.
Okay.
I was on the band twice in '65 and about early '68 before Maynard moved to Manchester.
Oh,
And then Ernie Garside formed that band over there in Manchester.
right. Ernie. Yep.
And Andy and Alan Downey and all of those brilliant players were on the band over there.
Right.
But you know, I was just listening to Andy McIntosh yesterday on that album he did with the Metropole Orchestra.
Wasn't that gorgeous? I have to say, I think he was at the height of his.
He was definitely. That's just such great playing on there. Andy and I had so much fun, you know, over there because I toured in England for years and years and years. I must have toured 26 years at least once or twice a year over there and all through Scotland and Wales and the whole thing. And Ernie Garside was the booking agent for that,
Yeah.
the guy that formed Maynard's band, you know.
Yeah.
And of course, Andy, I used to go to Andy's house and with his father, and he'd get out the bagpipes and try to teach me to play the bagpipes. No way, you know.
And his dad, of course, was like the alto player in England, right? For studio and
I guess, yeah, his father. I knew his father. I mean, I didn't ever hear his father play the saxophone, but his father was a brilliant bagpipe player, and that he was really known for that. And it's a good thing I didn't learn that because my wife hates the sound of a bagpipe. Kill me.
you know, Andy and I, we met in Pittsburgh. I was on the road in Pittsburgh before I was 21, and Maynard's band came through our gig and played a few nights. and he actually met his wife there because she was in my show. She was a dancer. And then when I went to LA, he was in LA and they had split up. And so he and I actually dated. And then about 7 years ago, he brought me to England and we recorded. And then last year, I took that project out of Hawk and fixed it up and put it out. I just put it out straight ahead to the UK, I call it. And Andy on it, I need to share the copy with you.
Oh, I see. I saw that on your website. As a matter of fact, Andy played with after Dick Spencer left Toshiko's band. Andy came on and played the lead alto book on Toshiko's band. That's where Andy and I did quite a bit of gigs together and so forth.
He was quite the character.
Oh, I know. Yeah, he was. Well, let's not go down that road. Oh my God.
No, because I have stories. I'll share stories with you later. They're a little too revealing, of his of his nature. But anyway, so let's see. We have a question, or actually a few people. Marty Bound is here.
Oh, great. Yeah, Marty's a brilliant, one of the top players in New York City, and he's had some lessons with me a few years ago, and he's just the most lovable guy in the world. He's so supportive. Everything I do, he's like the first guy to buy it.
Oh.
I release an album and an hour later, I got an order. It's like,
oh, Marty, way to go.
Yeah.
I have a guy like that here, Dan Davila. We go out together a lot to hear music, and he's always the first guy to buy CDs. He's so supportive.
It's nice to have people like that, isn't it?
Yeah. And Andrew Schermerhorn, who's a friend of mine here, he's a drummer. He said, do you remember playing on Louis Bellson's 150 miles per hour? And did you ever play with Basie?
I do remember 150 miles an hour with Belson. And I did play with Basie a couple of nights when Wallace Davenport left the band and in a huff. And it's funny. It's one of the bands I always wanted to play with, and it's one of the only bands I never really played with as a steady gig. But when Wallace walked, I got, Lockjaw was kind of managing the bands, I recall, and he asked me to come on, but I was in the Cy Zentner band working at the Tropicana Hotel in Vegas at that time, and we had a night off, so I covered for Wallace until they could find somebody. And I came back and to the next night, and Gene Go was playing lead with Cy Zentner, and I told Gene, I said, "Gee, Jaws asked me to go on Basie's band. I wonder if I should." If I can leave there. And Gene says, "Oh, that's my gig. That's my gig. I want that gig. I want that gig." Gene bird dogged that thing, and he called him up, and he got the gig. He left Cy's band, and he took the gig.
Wow.
It was actually better because I couldn't have stayed for very long because I had too many commitments. I had I had a big copying service in Vegas, and I was contracting for 3 hotel lounges and stuff like that. And so I couldn't really, I could go out and play for a while, but I would have had to come back. But Gene stayed like 15 years or something, So it was better, really.
What was the longest gig that you had?
I played lead for Louis Bellson for 33 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn.
And kind of off and on, mostly lead for Terry Gibbs for about 30 years.
Wow.
I have to tell you a funny story about Basie, though. This is a hilarious thing. I was in Minneapolis, St. Paul. I flew in, and the day I got there, the guy picked me up at the airport. Said, "Well, you're off tonight. You want to go? Basie's band's over in St. Paul. Do you want to go hear the band?" I went, "Oh, are you kidding?" Yeah. So we went over to, there's a big ballroom, and so forth. And we sat back and listened for a while, and they took a break. And so I went over to the dressing room. I knocked on the door. And Sonny Cohn opened the door, and I walked and said hello to all the cats and all that, and everything. Basie was sitting at a table over there, and I walked over to say hello, and he said, "Bobby, sit down," And Basie looks at me, he says, "Bobby, when are you going to come play on my band?" And I said, "Well, Basie, the problem, it's a money problem, really. The money, it's really an issue with money." And I said, "But here's what. I'll give you $150 a day to let me play in your band, but that's the best I can do. That's the best offer. Macy loved it, you know. But I love that band to death. I mean, you know, Snooky Young, his style of interpreting that band's music it stands as one of the most important guides for anybody learning to play lead trumpet. You know, there's three guys that I have written about, and there's even a book out that I wrote a foreword for, but it's about Snooky Young, Al Porcino, and Conrad Gazzo were probably the three most important lead trumpet players in the business. And those three guys each had a different style. Al Porcino's best playing for me was the Terry Gibbs Big Band albums. You know, there's a whole string of them out there. And Al and Mel Lewis played together. This was like, oh boy, you know, that just swung it in a different feel.
Yeah.
The basic thing is a little more crisp and on top of things, you know.
Uh-huh.
Al Pacino and Mel Lewis lays back a little bit. And then Conrad Gazzo did all those Sinatra, Nelson Riddle things, the Billy May stuff and all that. It's a different style, but so power, but they're all really definitive styles, personalities, you know.
Yeah.
And when a person growing up learning to be a lead trumpet player, you have to, if you're somebody like that's going to be in the studios, you have to be very eclectic in that you have to be able to adjust your style from Universal to Paramount. I mean, you know, you walk every 3 hours, the style might change for you, and you have to be able to do that. So a person, a young lead trumpet player growing up, you either have a voice of your own, or you learn all the other voices, you know. But almost every lead trumpet player in the history that was worth a dime came out of the style of Snooky, Al Porcino, or Conrad, you know. People like Bill Chase, who would flash a lot of notoriety on Woody Herman's band in the early 60s and all that, was good. I stood next to Bill Chase in 65 on that band. He had a certain way of doing things, you know. It was, a lot of it was based on Maynard's type of playing, you know, and so forth, but it was a combination of all of the different things. But whoever you check out, I mean, look at Wayne Bergeron's lead trumpet playing. I mean, who's better than that, you know?
Yeah, man, he's really,
you know,
beautiful.
And,
He's a combination of all beautiful stuff.
Yeah. And, I mean, and he's like a bull. I mean, he's like built of steel, this guy, even now coming off of the cancer thing and so forth. But I just talked to him just about 2 hours ago on the phone. And that's when he said to be sure and say hello to you, you know. But, you know, Wayne is, he's a very strong. I heard him when he was 15. I was at Orange Coast College. I was on Louis' band, and high school bands were coming in, and we were supposed to adjudicate or critique or something. I don't remember. And there's this little red-faced kid in the back row, like blowing like there's no tomorrow, you know. And his face is like tomato red, but he was playing like double C's and things at 15 years old. And I heard that he could play them at 13 because he went up in that drum corps program and so forth. But I thought, who in the heck is that kid back there? And then I found out. And then later on, he had some lessons with me. And I remember his first lesson. He played something for me, and I said, you know what? Lift your foot up off the gas pedal. I said, you're paying $80 for a $3 hamburger. He was I was talking to Wayne about that more recently, you know. He said, I have two ways of playing, off or on. And he just was like so powerful. You know, but when you learn to play out on a football field,
you
don't have reverberations coming back off of the side walls and the ceiling. It's coming off of Arcturus or some other planet or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
So you blow until you can hear yourself.
Yeah.
And invariably, you're going to be playing too loud because the trumpet's pointing away. It's not stuck in your ear.
Right.
Dave Monette, many years ago, built a trumpet for me. He says, you want to hear how you sound? So he built this trumpet, and it's in reverse. As you hold it here, the bell comes around, it's right in my face.
Get out of here. That's hysterical.
I still have that horn and stored someplace, but Dave has this great sense of humor.
That's funny, man. You probably would be right, really soft because, especially having it right in your face.
But you know, it's a problem with a lot of people playing instruments that, and I've written about it in some articles because when we grow up in band rooms, they over soundproof these band rooms so they don't don't interrupt the school, you know.
Yeah, and then you can't hear it.
Yeah, and so what happens is you try to hear yourself play, and you know, when kids are young, they just kind of sloppy and play out of tune, and you know how it is, and so forth. And you struggle with the tone production, and then you'll find yourself setting up a lot of bad habits to overblow the instrument, and next thing you know, you've set up patterns, brain patterns that are autopilot, and that's what happens when you play, and you don't realize that you're overexerting, and your endurance is affected by it, your sound quality is affected, your intonation, everything, you know. And fortunately for me, I lived that life, and I've got a lot of scars on my body. I won't show you. I'll show you only one. It's a big cut right there on my lip. You know?
Oh.
So, splitting my lip open with Buddy Rich's band, you know. But I've had hernias and a lot of dislocated jaws and all kinds of surgical things and whatever. And, you know, I got a lot of scars.
Wow. You know, you just reminded me when I was in Pittsburgh and Maynard's band came through, he actually had a split lip.
Yep.
Yeah, he couldn't play. He played a little, but you know, had the band play mostly.
Well, when I split my lip seriously in New York, when with Buddy Rich's band, I couldn't even play. And Maynard, I had to go to Maynard's house, and he gave me some cream, some cortisone cream or something to put on my lip to heal it all up, you know.
Yeah.
But
well, you know, that reminds me of electric bass players too. I mean, to me, it was obvious. I was standing in front of the amp, so I would hear the electric bass loud, and the bass player, wouldn't, because the amp was down at his knees and it was pointing out. And many times, actually, I would have them point it upwards, you know, so that they could. I mean, it makes sense to me, but
put it on a chair.
Yeah.
Well, I've gone through the same thing millions of times, but the problem, you get in between a rock and a hard place on this, because the bass player wants to hear himself a certain way.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, but when he hears himself a certain way, then the band can't hear him the right way.
Right.
And I always tell the bass player, I said, you know, wherever you sit here, the piano, and you're back here between the piano and the drums, sort of, and you should make sure that the baritone sax player, who's the furthest one away from you, clear across the bandstand, ask him how he hears you, and cater to him, and make sure that that guy and the bass trombone player behind him and so forth, the people furthest away, that they can hear you, because the bass, in my opinion, and I think it's a pretty good opinion, the bass is the most important functional instrument in any kind of a band, because if the bass player plays good time and he plays good lines through the harmonic structure of a tune, you don't really need a drummer. Oops.
Right. Well,
the drummers hate for me to say that.
Yeah. He's the timekeeper, really, the bass player.
I did a concert in New Zealand one time with just a bass player, the entire concert.
Yeah.
Me and a bass, and we changed up types of tunes, and I changed to a mute, to a flugelhorn, to a trumpet, to this and that, and then I had all the colors that was necessary there.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's when I teach. You know, when I'm teaching music, there's two things. I try to teach music first, and bring the trumpet up to the music. But unfortunately, sometimes the person can't play the instrument, so you have to teach them the instrument. And what happens in pedagogy quite often in the schools, or even in private lessons, is they spend all the time with scales and technical things and learn to play the trumpet, but they never focus on the music, the emotional, the spiritual side of the music, the thing that brings the joy to you, you know, the ooh, you know, and so a kid can play all of his scales and double tongue and triple tongue, but he can't play 8 bars that come to nowhere without a piece of paper in front of him, you know.
Yeah.
So when I teach music, when I get into like my improv students, I put a metronome on them, and I don't like metronomes but you have to start someplace. And so I put a metronome on 1 and 3, and I have them sing a bass line at about 120 metronome mark, and they just have to go do 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 dee do dee do. And don't worry about the harmonics. Just go up and down the 5 notes of a scale, but make it swing. And then they have to do bang dang da dang ding da ding ding da ding ding do 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 bang dang da ding boom da doom ba dang da bang do do, until they internalize a feeling inside of themselves of, ooh, now play. And the whole basic thing is, I said, you should never play without an internal sense of feel. And the way that the bass player and the drummer connect, and until that becomes one thing, that the drummer knows, the drummer who works on having a bass player inside of him is going to be he's going to play better time, because something inside of him, is that bass feeling inside of him is sending messages, neuromuscular messages, to his hands and feet. It tells him exactly how to play that cymbal or the hi-hat or whatever. And if you don't have that, you're just doing it random cues and but that's not what makes the music swing and feel right. It's the feeling of the music, as you know that, Cathy. I mean, you know that as well.
Yeah. It's interesting to hear you talk, because of course everything ties into everything. But yesterday I had a student. She's a young student, in her early 20s. She's Chinese American, and she just decided that she sings Chinese pop music, but it just never turned her on. And then she started hearing jazz, and she was like, "What is that?" And then people said, "Oh, that's old people's music." And she said, "I don't know. I want to go listen." Anyway, yesterday it's a real interesting student, because she's very musical. She really has all the information, but she doesn't know that she has it. So we were working on that precise thing. And when she actually, snapped on 2 and 4 and then sang with me playing and everything, she literally got chills. She was so blown away. It was like, and I gave her a list of people to listen to. And I said, "So who'd you listen to?" And she said, "This wonderful person, Sarah Vaughan or something." I was like, she's the queen. She's one of the queens.
Well, no kidding. She's Sarah Vaughan was my favorite of all. I mean,
oh yeah.
I did the first time I ever really worked with Sarah. I was on Woody Herman's band in '65, and we backed her up at Lake Tahoe for 2 weeks. And after the gig, we'd go sit at the bar. And I'm sitting.
She was a good hang.
Oh, she was a great hang, and sitting next to her at the bar and chatting and so forth. But over the years, we got to be good friends, And one time, I told her, I've told this story a few times. I said, I went to Sarah and I said, first time I heard you, I was 14 years old, and I heard you on an album with Clark Terry, and you sang Shew Bop, and then you sang a ballad, and I went, oh my God, listen to that voice. And it touched me. So I had like tears in my eyes, and I went, who in the world is this lady? And I looked at the picture. She was so cute and everything. I went, oh, that's who I want to marry, And I told her, I says, I wanted to come to New York and marry you. And she says, well, why didn't you do it? And I said, well, Sarah, I was 14 years old. I couldn't handle you. She said, well, I would have handled you. Oh, Sarah. There's something a lot of people have never seen it. It just reminded me, I have it in my files. It's like very rare. We did a production, and we recorded it at one of the studios there on Sunset Boulevard, RCA, or maybe, I can't remember. But it was Sarah Vaughan, Carmen McRae, and Mel Torme.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
With Marty Fraser's band,
Yeah.
String section. And there was no audience. We just recorded it in the studio. We rehearsed it for a day, and then we recorded it. And I was sitting on the end of the trumpet section. It was the trumpets were John Odino, me, and Jay DeVersa, I think. And and I was about 3 feet from Sarah while she was singing.
Oh my God.
Sarah, it was such a treat. And Sarah and Carmen were all over Mel Torme because he was being jiving.
Well, you know, that was supposed to be Ella instead of Mel. And yes, and Ella couldn't do it. And they made a film of it, and they also had them talking. I can't remember who shared it with me. It might have been Carl Schroeder because he played with Sarah for 9 years.
That's right. Well, I think Carl was the piano player on that gig.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I have it on. It was like it came out on some HBO broadcast many years ago or something.
Yeah.
But I have a DVD of it. It's very special, you know. But I just loved Sarah, and an interesting thing how you get influenced as a player, you know. And I was doing a clinic one time, a trumpet clinic, and some guy raised his hand and asked me a question. Back in those days, I used to have a reputation as a particular sound I got on the flugelhorn, you know. So this guy asked me, Bobby, he says, how do you get that sound on the flugelhorn, you know? And I said, I try to match how Sarah Vaughan would sing a ballad. And I went, and that just came out. I hadn't thought about that before. It just answered me. It was like the truth. To the surface, and I went, oh, that's true, you know? Because when I hear I hear a sensuous quality in her voice, you know?
Yeah.
If you play the flugelhorn, the trumpet is very masculine, but the flugelhorn has a little more feminine qualities to it. It has a little more sensitivity and warmth, and you want to put your arms around it and hug it a little bit, you know? And so, it's just, you know, the way I look at it, but the flugelhorn has always been like the instrument I preferred to play solos on because I felt it matched a vibration inside of me of some sort, you know.
I love the flugelhorn.
Over the years later, as I was designing instruments with Yamaha and so forth, one of the things I always strived to pull off in any kind of instrument design was that I got the right kind of vibration inside of my body with the sound that the instrument and I were able to produce, you know.
Mm-hmm.
If the instrument was too bright for me, I didn't want it. It sounded too military or something, you know. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But Sarah, man, oh, you kidding? But I had a lot of, you know, I mean, there was a lot of them that I really liked. There were some of them. Julie London was fun to work with, you know, and she had a kind of a unique voice and a very sensuous, smoky kind of thing, you know. And I'll tell you a funny story about Julie. We were working with her and Bobby Troop up in Vegas a long time ago, and I was contracting for the Tropicana Lounge, so we had a big band. So backstage, Julie's like pretty funky hang, I'll tell you. She's a cowgirl, you know, from Baker. You know? And so she did. You remember the album she did called Calendar Girl?
Yes.
Okay, so I was hanging with her, having a few tastes in the back, cognac and some of them, you know. And I told Julie, I said, you know, that Calendar Girl album when I was young and
another professing of love.
Yeah, exactly. But I told her I was learning about sex, and I used to use your Calendar Girl album, you know, with inspiration. You know, that was my porno book. She loved it. She says, "Oh, isn't that cute?"
Oh gosh. So, when were you in you were in, was it the NORAD band?
NORAD, yeah.
With Jim Cowger?
No, Jim Cowger was in an Air Force band up Hamilton Air Force Base above San Francisco.
Oh, where was that in your life?
We were in it at the same time.
Yeah.
He got out a little after I did, but it was 1961 to 64.
Okay.
And I was stationed I was in the Army, but NORAD is North American Air Defense. So it's Army, Navy, Air Force, and Royal Canadian Air Force, all multi-service band. We were stationed in Colorado Springs. But Jim Cowger was in the Hamilton band in Air Force. He was Air Force guy. I met him when I actually met Jim when I was on Buddy Rich's band, playing at Basin Street West in San Francisco, and he was still in the service then. He came in, but he was later. I just saw Jim.
You did?
Well, I was in, not just, I mean, about a year ago, I was in Nashville doing a concert for the Jazz Society.
Oh, wow.
And I went over to Jim's house and
Oh,
bought some Chinese food, and we sat and hung out for a while.
oh,
He's
man.
going through some very
Oh,
difficult health issues, you know.
yes, and
He's
his
got
wife died, and
Yeah. But I love him. He's like he's family to me. You know, we had that communal project going on in Vegas there with 18 people staying in my house, you know, and it was like, Auger was one of them. And there was another trombone player, Joe King, was in the same band
Oh,
up there at Hamilton. But, you know, I was, you know, the guys that were in the NORAD band with me were people like Randy Allcroft, you know, Barry Zweig. Warren Looning was my replacement when I got out.
uh-huh.
Let's see who else is out there.
I didn't know Barry was in that band.
Yeah, Barry was in there.
Ah,
Yep, Barry.
love Barry. I don't know if you saw my little film I did for him. I wrote a song. I'll send that to you too. And I made a little film, and John Leftwich and Pat Kelly and I recorded it because he passed, you know, at the beginning of this whole thing. And yeah, I'll send you the song. It's sweet.
Oh, yeah.
It's very nice.
Well, Barry was the first guitar player on Buddy Rich's band too. When Buddy's band was formed in about a little April of 1966, and Buddy's band played 2 weeks at the Aladdin Hotel, backing a singer by the name of Bobby Norris.
Uh-huh.
And
Norris.
Norris, N as in
Yeah, Norris.
Yeah, right. Bobby
Yeah.
was singing with the band, and
Phil Wilson in that band, is that correct?
no, not yet, not then.
Okay.
Phil was on Woody's band. He was never on Buddy's band. He wrote for Buddy's band, but he never played on the band. But this was Jimmy Trimble was on the band. Well, it was a different kind of a band. What happened? They played there, and they were opposite Professor Irwin Corey, the comic.
Yeah.
People packed in for Irwin Corey's gig, and then when Buddy's band came on, they all left. And I wasn't on the band yet. The band had formed, and they played 2 weeks, and then it dissolved. It didn't work. And Buddy was out front, tap dancing and singing, and another guy was playing drums. And
Oh my gosh.
yeah, it was kind of a screwed up thing, and nobody liked the band, and the charts were wrong. And he folded the band and then reformed it about a month later, and that's when they changed the personnel. And that's when I got on the band and started there. And then that's the band that really took off. And Barry was there. Barry was there.
Yeah.
And,
Now, Barry told me, I think it was during that time that Sammy Davis Jr. and Buddy hooked up and they did a recording.
We did, yeah. We did an album. It's live. It's live in '66. You should hear it.
Yeah, Barry like raved.
It was all. We rehearsed one day, and George Rhodes was conducting, and I don't see who did some of Ernie Freeman did a lot of the arrangements and stuff. And we went to the Sands Hotel at 4 o'clock in the morning, and we played every tune one time. There was one take on everything. And Sammy came out and sang, and they invited all these show girls and people that worked the Strip in Vegas.
To have an
They all came in, and the place was jam-packed. I was working with Della Reese at that time, and I had to get a sub to cover my gig with Della so I could do the recording with Buddy. And that you should hear. Oh my God, that record is one of the most stunning things. And and Sammy's lead trumpet player was Renald Jones, played in the section with us too. So it was Renald and myself, Carl Saunders, Bob Faust, and John Sotilli with the trumpet section, I believe. Fantastic album. Absolutely killing. And people heard that and went, oh, scary, you know? And that was the band's first recording. And then we went to, we got more gigs, and we went to LA and we did, excuse me, we did, they brought us in for a week at a place called the Shew on Santa Monica Boulevard. and the place was packed every night with people
Wow.
like Judy Garland and Milton Berle and Johnny
Wow.
Carson. And the place was Edie Adams. They were buying out. Edie Adams bought the entire club out one night. She just bought the entire thing and made it a private gig for her
Wow.
friend. And but every night we had Judy Garland sitting in with us, you know, and
Oh my God.
Johnny Carson got up and sat and played drums on one tune. It was so hilarious. But it was so good, and they held us over, and we ended up doing I think maybe 3 weeks there or something like that.
Wow. That sounds like a great gig.
That's when we recorded West Side Story, and that's when I split my lip right
Oh,
there.
yeah.
That was it, and it bled and bled and bled and bled, and it got worse and worse and worse.
Trumpet is such a hard instrument to play.
Well, when you play it incorrectly, it's damn impossible. It's really a painful instrument. It can really bite back at you. But
Yeah.
it's mostly because, once again, as I was saying earlier, a lot of the problems are that in the field of trumpet teaching, you go back enough centuries of this stuff, you know, and you find so much false data and so little respect for anything scientific. And a lot of people will tell you stuff that's just non-applicable. And
Yeah.
not only is it not true, but it sends you down a wrong path towards like devastation, you know. I'm very fortunate that 46 years ago, while doing a Louis Bellson gig up in Canada, there was the Belvedere Jazz Festival, and there was 5 big bands. It was Basie's band, Woody's band, Maynard's band, Louis Bellson's band, and the Basie band. And all 5 bands were on this festival together with Dizzy and Victor Feldman and all kinds of people like that, you know. But backstage, I was talking to Maynard one day, and Maynard handed me a book on yoga breathing. And because I asked him, I said, "What's the secret?" You know. And so he handed me this yoga breathing book, and so I read it a couple of times, and I thought, well, where's the double C chapter? You know, it wasn't there. But, I was doing a session at Yucca Studios in Hollywood, and the other trumpet player on the session was Bud Brisbois. And Bud saw the book in my case, and he said, "What are you doing with that?" And I said, "Well, Maynard gave it to me a couple of weeks ago." I says, "I don't get it. I read it. I don't get it, you know." He says, "Oh, I'll show you how to do that." So he says, "It's the same thing I do. You have to take a yoga health book and transfer it how to apply it to playing, you know, a wind instrument." So we sat out in the hallway, and Bud showed me how to apply it to the trumpet, and I went, "God, that goes against everything the teachers always say." He says, "Yeah, you got to stop listening to them." You know, and I took the thing home and practiced it it was clumsy at first because it was quite different. But 10 days later, I was playing double C as big as a house. And I went, holy crap.
Wow.
And so at the same time, I've told this story a lot of times. I had a doctor studying with me, a brilliant trumpet player, jazz and lead. And I asked him, I said, "Hey, Dave, what's with the respiratory system? How does this work?" So he referred me to a book, a SIBA book from medical school on the respiratory system. And he says, "You read the book." I went, "You mean the whole thing?" He says, "It won't hurt you." So I did. And I found out how to do lung transplants and all kinds of stuff. But what I did find out was how the respiratory system works and what a diaphragm is and what muscles are in the abdomen and so forth. And all of a sudden you start I'm getting an anatomy class, you know. I took biology in school, but so you cut a frog open and that's basically it. You know?
Yeah.
But I became enamored with the science of anatomy, physiology, and so forth. So if you look at my house now, it's like a medical library here, you know. And for 46 years, I've been studying a lot of stuff, neuroscience. I use neuroplasticity in teaching, changing all
Love that. Yeah.
reprogramming bad habits, neuromuscular habits, and embouchures and stuff like that.
Could we talk about that a little bit? I know Harry Pickens wrote a great book about that.
Oh yeah, Harry. Yeah, he's very much into all of the brain wave stuff and all of the
Yeah.
left and right brain stuff and all that, right?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Ask me questions about it if you like.
Well, I mean, for those people who are listening and who don't have any idea of what it is, It's your, well, you can probably explain it better than I can. Go ahead.
Well, what it is first of all, it's called neuroplasticity.
Right.
And for lots and lots and lots of years, the medical profession has thought that any kind of habits that you had programmed into your brain were there forever and ever, and they couldn't be changed. Well, in a sense, they're true. But what can be changed is, it's not a matter of going in and taking a habit and taking a pair of scissors and snipping it and throwing it away. What you do is you understand the brain has 100 billion neurons in it, and the average person only uses around 15 to 20% of those available neurons. A neuron is, it's not the way it really looks or anything, but it's almost like an octopus with tentacles or something like that, you know? It has a body to it, and it has 3 tentacles like synapse, dendrite, and an axon, and they all interconnect. A muscle is just a piece of meat, and it has the ability to do things, but it needs to be told and shown what to do. So it's neuromuscular. People talk about muscle memory. It's not the muscle, it's the brain waves in the brain that send neuromuscular electrical signals to a muscle. They interconnect with a bunch of other neurons until the muscle is taught what to do. And so a German neuroscientist back in 1937 did some testing and research and found out that that we had all this potential there, with just sitting there asleep, these dormant neurons. So what neuroplasticity is when you have a bad habit, you go in and you have to first of all know how to analyze. If you're playing a phrase like, if you want to play da ba da ba da da da, you know, sentimental mood, and you go ha ba da ba oops da ba da ba, and then you start inventing 4-letter words. Well, what happens there is your attitude goes into this dark negative zone. You start getting pissed off about, Mom, I need a new trumpet or something, you know, and it's not really true. What you need to do is know how to analyze. And that's something that I try to do. Is I don't teach people to play. I teach them how to teach themselves how to play. I give them the tools so that they can analyze and learn to make corrections on their own, because if I can't follow them around and be a fly on the wall for everybody's career. But so what a person does is they have a checklist of da, 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 what? Okay, then what's the checklist? Did I get a good warm up? Oh, I rushed through that. Well, then stop and do the warm up correctly, and then you might get the note. Oh, well, no, the warm up was cool. Well, check your breathing. Are you supporting your air properly down there in the abdominal region, or are you shifting it all up into your neck and face so your effort level comes up here? That's going to cause a lot of pinching and what we call pinch, press, and pray, you know, in your face area.
Pinch, press, and play. That's funny.
Yeah, the 3 Ps. Yeah, pinch, press, and pray. So then we check that and say, oh, well, you put the air in, and then all of a sudden the note comes out. But you say, no, the air is fine. And then you look and see if you're pinching your lips too close together, like the M or the other thing we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
You make the correction. And once you make the correction, you go, da, ba, do, do, da, da, and so forth. All of a sudden the notes come out. And then you think, I got it. No, you didn't. You just figured it out, but you haven't programmed it yet.
Right.
So what happens is a lot of times when a person will figure out, oh, it was my breathing, and then they pack up the horn and go, and they walk away and say, all right, I figured that out. Next time you play, you crap all over it again.
Yeah.
Because you haven't set up the repetitiveness that is necessary. In neuroplasticity, you have to slow it down. Blue Mitchell used to call it tempo di lerno. You slow the process down and do it repetitions, 25, 50 times. If it's a simple repetition, it only takes 3 or 4 or 5 seconds to do it. So you can do like quite a lot of them in a minute. In 10 minutes, you can do a lot of them. And the more you do repetition and slowly, and then I have students close their eyes so it internalizes and they get a little more dominance in the right brain. And then by doing that, you set up this new neuromuscular pattern. And then next time you go to play in a sentimental mood, it's all there.
Yeah.
the more you do that, it builds up this myelin substance on the new neurons, and it takes dominance over the old habit, and the old habit goes to sleep, and there you are. You've changed your embouchure. You've changed the way you play. And
Yeah,
so,
I think, I mean, it totally makes sense. And also exactly what you're saying for singing too, all of that, because singing and playing trumpet are very similar as far as, the technique, right?
yeah, except for the larynx, we bypass the larynx.
Well, yeah, but we have the vocal cords, which are like the lips.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, over the years, I've definitely made relation to that. Like Jack Sheldon was a great singer. Why? Because he was a great trumpet player too, and he had all that stuff that you're talking about together, and he actually applied it to his singing, and he sang great. I mean, it was a really good instrument, that he got. But
Have
but
you read The Talent Code by Daniel Coyle, Kathy?
no,
Oh, well, you must do that. That's really like the intro book for anybody that's interested in this neuroscience and neuroplasticity. It's
what
called
is it called again?
excuse me, The Talent Code.
The Talent Code.
Daniel Coyle, Coy, is in Yugoslavia, LE.
Hmm.
And if you go to YouTube and type in neuroplasticity, type in the talent code, type in Daniel Coyle, you're going to get lectures by Daniel. You'll get some by
Oh,
some other neuroscientists that all discuss the use of neuroplasticity. And, they started using it, a lot of these things initially in sports like tennis and
yeah,
golf and things like that. But
yeah.
it's now, I mean, they're using it in medical things. I've read, there's two other books by uh, Norman Doidge, Doidge. And he's written the brain that changes itself and the brain's way of healing. And they're much more thick, intense books, but they go way into it. And they're using this stuff for like Parkinson's disease and all kinds. They're making neurological corrections for
I
people.
can believe it.
I've one.
Actually, it's fun. It's very interesting. I don't know. It sounds like you and I might have a similar thing, but I don't know what yours is. But I've had a cough for 20 years, and it's related to there's a feeling accompanied with it, and there's a little bit of drip. And I've seen Eastern and Western doctors up the yin yang. And what's interesting is anytime something would work, it would always revert back. And so lately, I have been turned on to a book by Jonathan Sarf. I think John Sarf, something. Anyway, this book is talking about how everything can be related to trauma and to suppressed rage. It's really interesting. And, first you have to notice it, and then you have to kind of direct your brain to stop it. And anyway, but it, I really do believe that I can stop my cough. And I have a friend who had major, major body issues, and he's a kind of a self-help guru in the Netherlands. And he kind of took me on as a project. And so he had made such major problems for years, and he just by applying this, he actually got rid of them. And he had been to many doctors, and nothing helped him. It's really interesting. So,
Well, there's a lot of subjects that apply to this, applied kinesiology and things of that sort,
yeah,
which all apply. I think one of the real problems, and this is a general statement in a sense, but it brings me back to the rascal that I am, because I've realized over all the years of being involved in the educational system, not only as a student coming up through it and being mostly bored by it. It was mostly a little too easy in most cases. The one thing that offered me the most intense and enjoyable challenge was the music, learning to improvise, you know. But I've always had an interest in Eastern philosophy and so forth, and some different kinds of things like that. I've had a lady, Eloise Ristad, who was a teacher at Juilliard School of Music. She taught voice and dance, and she did a session at the Trumpet Guild conference many years ago, and she was talking about, like, Feldenkrais and some of the Alexander techniques and the
Yeah,
things of
yeah.
that sort that are all applied to our bodies and stuff.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
But and because most of us, we don't know crap about our bodies. We don't really understand hardly anything. And to
Yeah,
talk about the brain, hardly anybody knows anything about that,
yeah, yeah.
And I mean, so she mentioned something about problems with the TMJ, the temporal mandibular joint back here, the jaw, back
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
And so I had a dislocation in there from playing at one point with Toshko's band. And it was due to a crossbite. There's overbites, underbites, and very rarely a crossbite. So when I put pressure, my jaw would go to the side.
Huh.
It tore the ligament out here, and the jaw fell out of the socket, and I was getting pain. And that was so she mentioned that in the clinic, and I raised my hand and I said, you mentioned TMJ. I said, I got a TMJ problem right now. And she came back in the row where I was sitting, and Sal Cracchiola was sitting right next to me at the time. And there's like 50 some trumpet players all sitting there, all top classical guys and everything. And she kneeled down in front of me and she took a finger on her right hand and pinched. She hit a place in the side of my calf on my left leg. And I went, and this electric shock went, oh, ouch. And then she took a finger on her right hand and hit the calf on the side, and she pinched them both together. And it was like a electrical current ran through my body, and it went right, and my jaw went, and I went,
Really?
what the hell just happened here?
Wow.
And it pulled that ligament right back in place, and my jaw went right back in position. And I've never had a problem with my jaw since. I said, what was that? It's called shiatsu.
Oh.
And she did shiatsu on me, I went, holy, wait a minute. So I've since bought all kinds of books about all of the, all of those books about acupressure and acupuncture and the trigger points and all that stuff. And the thing about it is, I started to say earlier about the educational system. We go through all those years of school, and when you get out of high school, you can't even change a light bulb sometimes,
Yeah.
Can't change a tire. We know nothing about practical application. We don't know anything about economics. Every dollar we make, we don't know what to do. Just go drink it up. Get some drugs and alcohol or whatever, buy me people don't know how to manage their money when they earn it. They don't know how to be a father, a parent,
Yeah.
a husband. They don't know how to cook.
Yeah.
They don't know practical things that we need to do in this life. There are things called books, and they're interesting little gadgets, because if you spend a little time in them, your brain will swell up on you a little bit. You get, I used to work when I was a little kid and teenager. I worked used to sneak into this bar in Albuquerque and sit in, and they had a sign on the wall in the bar. It said, in a German dialect, it says, "We grow too soon old und too late smart." But I'm an obsessive biblioholic in that I'm always reading every day something, at least maybe 2 books going on, different types of things. Sometimes it's a biography, and sometimes I don't feel like something technical, but I'm reading the Bolton book right now, and then my wife started the Mary Trump book, and so.
That's funny, man. I have this one book by my bed. Well, I also have several different books, but this one book I've been reading for months because I guess I've just read like a chapter at a time, and then a few days will go by. It's the Deepak Chopra, How to Find God.
Oh yeah.
Like you said, my head has totally. I mean, it's. I don't know how people don't read because it's so worthwhile and fascinating and rewarding.
I agree. And the technology of these little Game Boys and gadgets and phones and apps and messing around, it's just like, it shrinks your brain.
I agree. That's what it feels like. It feels like this. Yeah.
Oh, I know it does. And plus, I mean, they've found the electronics part of it. It has electrical effects on your body and the way the neurological system reacts to you. Sometimes you can actually people get dumber by using those things all the time, and
I knew
cell
it.
phones and stuff,
Hey,
But
can we listen to a little bit of music? And
as long as it's not, never mind. I won't say no.
well, you can
Sure.
actually show me because I can be on Bobby Shew on YouTube, and then you can actually
Oh, God, look at you, my God, look at all that stuff.
you can pick your poison. Let's see.
You know what? Hey, why don't
You?
you?
Is that you?
Yeah, let's not.
Oh my God, isn't that cute?
Why don't you? Oh no, let's see. Oh no, oh my God.
The legend continues.
Oh
Sorry
boy.
to make fun of that, but
Yeah, the legend, the legend. If you like the word legend, you break it in half. There's leg, leg, and then end. And what's at the end of a leg is a shoe.
Let's see. There's the Brotherhood of Man with the
Oh,
DM.
that's it. Oh yeah, well you can do that. That's
Okay.
that's with Wayne. Yeah, why not?
Yeah. All right. Yeah, here we go. Oh man, that's great.
Oh God.
Is that song The Brotherhood of Man? Is that what the name of that
It's
is?
called The Brotherhood of Man, yeah.
Great song.
Yeah, it's a clever little thing. It's a good arrangement. I thought it was, I think it was, I don't remember. I thought it was done for Maynard's band. It might have been, but
Do you know who wrote it?
I don't. I used to, but I've forgotten. It's, it's
Now
back.
that's funny. You haven't you I was marveling at your memory.
Well, every once in a while, I pull a drawer open and there's a dead spider and a gum wrapper in there.
That sounds
I think
great
my
though.
files are just rammed out. I mean, I still remember the first telephone number in my family. My grandmother's number was 8620. Now, why do I have to have that in there? I
I
could get
remember
rid of
my
that and make room for the Brotherhood of Man. I think I seem to remember that it was written for Maynard's band, but I may be wrong on that. But the arranger I know, but it slips my mind at the moment. But
sounds so good. I really like that song.
well, and
Andrew
that's
Chermerhorn is asking, I don't think so. Ed Shaughnessy on drums? That wasn't Ed Shaughnessy,
no,
right?
no, no, no. That's the what do you call it? Des Moines uh, big band, and that's Dick Oates'
Uh,
brother, leading the band out front. If you look in the back row, there's Adolfo Costa is playing in the trumpet
oh,
section. The funny thing is, this gig, Wayne Bergeron was brought into town for a clinic at a school
yeah.
at a university the next day, and Tower of Power was in town the exact same time to do a tour. And so there was Wayne in town and Adolfo and Mike Bogart, who was on the other trumpet player with Tower at that time. And and there's some other tracks that were done on that particular gig with all of us up there together, all four of us. It's just so crazy.
Oh my
It's
God.
actually, it needed a hand grenade thrown in.
That was fun, man.
Yeah, but I mean, Wayne is like, I just love that guy to death.
Oh,
He just,
yeah. And
he's
Nick Mondello is here, and he said the song is from How to Succeed in Business.
really.
That's why it sounds familiar.
Well, Nick Mondello, and he's a very knowledgeable cat, so he'd be right on the money with that.
Yeah. By the way, Bobby, after this, you can look on the Facebook feed, and you can see people's comments and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Um,
I don't have Facebook, so I don't.
oh, yeah, you can look on YouTube as well.
Okay.
Oh, actually, I don't know if YouTube wouldn't show Facebook. Oh,
Oh,
okay.
well, I don't care what they say.
I don't care what they say about me. Wow. So, gosh, there's been so much. What are you doing right now?
I'm talking to you. You talked about present time.
Oh, man. Oh, and Dan Davila. Thank you, Dan. He said Brotherhood of Man written by Frank Lesser.
Really? Oh, no kidding. That's a shock.
Yeah.
I wonder now. So somebody should tell us who did the arrangement then. Maybe
Okay,
it's
you
John
guys.
LaBarbera. No, I don't think it's John LaBarbera. Well, what I'm doing now, and this is a little bit of a surprise for a lot of people, is that just to try to summate it quickly, 2.5 years ago, I had a really horrible accident and slipped and fell on a tile floor and shattered the right side of my body.
Ooh.
And not lightly. I did it. My wife is standing next to me, and when we were walking down a hallway to go into bed, and I slipped, I had, as the doctors have told me, never walk on a tile floor in a pair of socks because I slipped and I went down and I landed right on my right hip, and it sounded like a gunshot, and it shattered in both directions, and it shattered my femur and all the way down and upward, and it shattered the hip and
Oh my God.
arm, shoulder, and back of
Wow.
my head, So I ended up in the hospital for 4 weeks and 2 7-hour surgeries and hip replacements, and then they had to go ahead and take it out and put it in again with a femur, and so everything is metal on the right side of my body for the most part. So I've been traveling. Once I could travel, I've been traveling with wheelchairs and a walker and stuff like that for a couple of years, and it's extremely painful and it's extremely difficult, and it's not easy, and handicapped rooms everywhere, and you can't get into restaurants with a walker and a wheelchair, and but I've been doing it because I love to play, and I'm not giving up playing, but I'm giving up traveling.
Oh,
I've just done too much all over the world. And it breaks my heart because I have so many friends out there, students and players that I've worked with, bands and things, and I can't stand not being able to see them again. But with things like these Zoom and Skype and things of that sort, at least we can talk, can't
yeah.
hug them and stuff like that. But when the pandemic hit, on top of all of this, I was dealing with not only the mobility problems of traveling, but they found a problem with my heart recently, which is why I've been in and out of the hospital getting echocardiograms and stuff like that, you know. And it's nothing serious. It's just minor heart attacks and stuff. I get one of those every couple of hours and so forth. It's just
Nothing serious though.
just to stay good at it.
Right, you're practicing.
I'm practicing. But no, but the doctors said it would be wise for me to probably slow down a little bit. And so Lisa saw me with heart issues and mobility problems, and a pandemic hit. So I got up and canceled everything for the rest of the year. And I decided it's time to retire not from playing, not from teaching, not from music,
Yeah.
from traveling. And that doesn't mean that I wouldn't travel, but if somebody offered me something that was easy, all the circumstances were right, I didn't have to do 3 changes of planes and ended up in like Jerusalem or someplace like that, you know, I would do it. You know, I don't want to go international so much anymore.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep my global my global card. I'm going to keep that.
Yeah.
But I want to teach, and I have as much of a passion for teaching. I think you can probably sense that, you know.
Yeah, totally.
I have a real crusade, a real purpose in life with trying to separate fact from opinion in the field of trumpet pedagogy, you know, and I'm trying my very best to make it possible for kids to get a more clear, honest, scientific approach to understanding. And I wrote an article recently. I've got like 9, 10, 12, 13-year-old kids now studying with me, beginners. So I wrote a little beginner's guide, a 5-page beginner's guide, and it's like a 10-year-old kid can pick it up and understand how their body works and a trumpet without any fancy words and stuff.
Cool.
And it just, I'm using like almost C-spot run kind of stuff on it, but I want people to understand what a muscle is and what it needs. And I'm not going into, you know, we're not talking about neuroplasticity to a 10-year-old kid.
Yeah.
But when you teach a kid the right way, they learn very quickly and they get on the right path and they jump up. I have a little girl, 10 years old, that as of yesterday, she'd been playing the trumpet for 2 weeks. And she took her first lesson with me 2 weeks ago for an hour. And by the time I finished with her and showed her the basic things about tone production, how it worked, she's playing. And I've seen her, they sent me a little video of her playing, and now she's playing songs. I wrote out a whole program for her of songs. I wrote out Mary Had a Little Lamb, London Bridge, Falling Down, and Saints Go Marching In. And I showed her how to read them and the whole thing and whatever, and the fingerings. And she's already playing them in less than 2 weeks, you know? So.
How fun is that?
It looks like a miracle.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is I cannot walk on water, you see. I'd sink to the bottom like you would. But the point being, if you show kids the right things, they pop right up real fast, you know? And so I've got bunches of kids that are like really young and playing things that you wouldn't believe, you know? So that gives me a tremendous purpose, you know? And I can stay home and we play. I've got a beautiful studio here. It's big enough for a big band, you know, to come in here, and it's separate from my house, and so it doesn't bother anybody.
And I see it has a refrigerator.
It has a refrigerator. On the other side of the refrigerator is another room with an indoor pool and a gym.
Get out of here.
And yeah, and then I'll show you.
Wow.
There's this grand piano down there, a set of drums, the whole thing, you know. And it's just a great room. It's this room itself is 2,500 square feet.
Oh my God. That's huge.
It's bigger than some houses, actually.
I know, it's bigger than my house.
Well, the thing about it is when we went through this eminent domain thing out in California, and they took away all the houses on our street to build a school, we made out like a bandit. Arnold, this is like, I call this Arnold Schwarzenegger's home, because they paid us a couple of $1 million to take our home away in Van Nuys. We moved here and bought an acre and a half of land and built a house from the ground up. And
Oh,
so it's a really comfortable place for us to live, and very private, and it's a very remote cul-de-sac, and we're on either side of my property. It's 200 yards to the next house. So I don't have any neighbors. I can run. I never have to wear clothes, you know, but I do. I even have pants on now.
oh my God.
Can you imagine?
And Lisa, how's Lisa? Lisa and you have been together for a long
It'll be 57 years in September.
Oh, isn't that amazing?
I'm telling you, she's the best thing that ever happened to me, aside from playing the trumpet, you know.
Yeah.
She's so sweet, you know, and you know, we're not kids. I'll be 80 on my next birthday. She's coming up to 83. And she's a cradle robber, you see.
I see.
She stole me away from my youth, you know.
Oh my gosh.
But it was being misspent anyway. So she no, I love her. I mean, she's the most amazing. I've never met another woman anywhere near like her. She's just the most unique, singular person, and she never knows what day of the week it is. I have to remind her, hey, this is garbage day, you know, or something like that. But she lives in a private universe of her own. It's like totally like, and she's, you know, she's so, she was such a great dancer. She was famous, world famous dancer when I met her, you know, and we'd be on the road, and we'd go into a club. We'd have a night off with buddies, man. And we'd go into a club where there was like a dance troupe of some sort. And the guy at the door, we'd walk in and he'd look at her. He'd say, aren't you Lisa? And I'd go, what, you know her? And she'd say, yeah. And I go, who the heck are you? You know, I knew she was a good dancer. That's when I first saw her. And I was like, holy crap. But I didn't realize she was actually as famous as she was. And then, so the word got back, and we're sitting at a table in this club, and all of the girls in this dance troupe started peeking through the mirror, and through the curtains, like, oh my God, Lisa's in the audience. Oh, no. Oh, it's like me playing with Dizzy in the front row, you know?
Oh my God.
She's a sweet, you know, well, you know her. She's a very unique sweetheart, and she's just special. You know, she weighs 102 pounds, and she mows the lawn and takes out the garbage and stuff that I can't do with no legs, you know. But she's just great, you know.
Wow, that's cool. Boy, that accident must have really freaked you both out. Wow. Because I'm sure it was.
It's life changing. I mean, you don't want to. I'm telling you, you do not want to fall down like that. It's just horrific. What it did, it changed my life instantly, and everything just fell apart. You know, in a lot of ways, I just can't do things that I was able to do before.
Yeah.
But it's okay. I'm still alive and still happy and still smiling, and I still have purpose. It's just, you know, the Irish jigs, I don't dance those anymore and stuff like that.
It's a shame, because I remember that was good. That was a good point of view. Hey, I have more information on the arrangement. So first of all, Michael Ackerman said, feel better, we love you. And Doug Crane and Adam Velez, they both did some research. Woody Herman recorded Brotherhood of Man in '74.
Gladka, I bet.
Yes, that's what Adam said.
There you got it. Oh, I knew it was Woody instead of Maynard. It would be Tony Klatka. I remember that.
And it featured Pete and Conti Condoli.
Oh yeah, okay.
Well, the recording.
Oh, wow.
They were. I've said this before, but you know, when I came out to California, I worked at Dante's as a waitress for a year and a half, and the Condoli brothers were two of the kindest guys. They were so kind. They always tipped me really well. They always ordered like Courvoisier, and you know, and they were respectful. You know, they never tried to hit on me or anything like that. You know, and I was like 21. You know, And
I agree. I remember you working there, as a matter of fact.
oh, you do?
I do, yeah.
Ah,
Because that was like a hang. I mean, I was
yeah,
Carrie. I was over there with Carrie and Everett all the time, and
yeah.
I played that club a lot. But I agree. You know, I when I was 18 years old, when I just out of high school, I attended the first year of the Stan Kenton summer stage band camps. They were called.
Oh,
You didn't
yeah.
want to use the word jazz because you thought it would had a dark connotation with the
I
average
think
public.
Peter Erskine did that too.
Well, he did it later. Peter's a lot younger than me. But
Okay.
I did the first one in Bloomington, Indiana, at the university at IU, and the first year was the trumpet teacher was Don Jacoby, who was a brilliant kind of combination classical big band lead type soloist and swing kind of guy and all that. I went back the second year, and Connie Condoli was the trumpet teacher.
Oh,
So I had my lesson in the first thing in the morning with Connie Condoli, you know, every morning.
what a
And
classy guy.
totally. And we played. He sat right next to me on Terry Gibbs band for years with a lot of things. We did Steve Allen show together.
Huh.
You know, Condi and we did so much hanging, and Bill Holman wrote a tune for Blue Mitchell and me called Blue and Shew to feature the two of us. And we used to play it all the time, but Louis called a recording session, and he wanted to record Blue and Shew, but Blue wasn't in the section. And I thought, let's not do it. We got to be Blue, you know. Louis says, no, I want to do the tune. And so and Conti did it with me. And it was renamed it's called Nightbirds. It's on his Pablo album, you know.
Oh, cool.
Count and I did a whole serious lot of hanging. And I love that guy playing. When I was a kid, I used to lay in bed with LPs on a turntable with the speakers right by my ear on the pillow. My parents would send me to bed real early, but I would sleep learning, you know, and I would go there and I'd listen to Conti's solos with the Stan Kenton band. He was one of the prime influences on me. He, Chet Baker, Don Fagerquist from the Les Brown band and so forth. But that's how I learned to play, just laying in bed and singing those solos along with what they played. And one of the things I want to say, because your whole thing with singing and all of that, I try to get my students scat singing too. And the reason for it is that's the primary voice that we all have. And when you sing as poorly as I do, you need to buy a trumpet. And so but I hear I want to play what I hear.
Yeah.
Are you hip to what idiokinetics is, Cathy? Do you know what that is?
No, is this like idiot?
Oh,
I don't know if it's either a joke or serious.
Well, this is no. Is
it serious?
Yeah, no, this is very
Idiokinetics.
here you go. Look at that.
Yeah, okay. All
And
right.
so idea, kinetic energy. And so when I was on Woody Herman's band, we toured for 3 weeks in Europe one time with John Coltrane's quartet. And this was before seat assignments. So when John would get on the plane, I'd get behind him, and then wherever he sat, I'd go to the next row and sit opposite him but one row behind, so I could look across on an oblique angle and watch him with all the flights and stuff and trains and everything. And John used to take a little stick out and hold it and play, and whatever he was singing in his head, he would finger on this stick. You know, there was no keys on it. There were buttons and bottle caps or something, as I remember. But idiokinetics is a system where you connect what you hear to the instrument. So I try to teach that. So I think that's a B flat concert. That close.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the good thing. I don't have perfect pitch. I can. Thank God. All the guys I know with perfect pitch spend too much time at the bar.
Right.
Here's the way I would start a kid in a beginning band.
Yeah.
I'd have them go like da 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 da, say something like that.
Yeah.
To sing it la 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 la. And then you hold the instrument, you go la 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 la. You finger it, finger. Yeah. That's step 2. 3. And if you get kids learning to play their instrument with idiokinetics, their ear is connected to the instrument through their fingers, rather than just visual piece of paper on a music stand. So,
Yeah, I get that.
you know, and so I like to get my students slowly to start singing. I'll put on a Jamie Aebersold track with them, and they have to, like, even if it's a simple blues, I have them sing like the first three choruses or something like that, and then scat sing with no instrument in their hands. But then after they get used to doing this, then maybe the fourth chorus, I'll tap them on the leg and they pick up the horn and they start playing, and they're more connected to their inner ear.
Yeah.
Than by just sitting there looking at chord changes and stuff like that. We need to, everybody that's a good player, whether it's Dizzy or Bird or everybody, they play by ear.
Yeah.
By playing by the science of Jamie Aebersold. I mean, Jamie Aebersold contributed a hell of a lot to the field of jazz education, without a doubt. I taught for him for 38 years, at those summer camps. But I'm not, when I'm playing, I'm not thinking about scales and stuff.
No.
I'm hearing stuff,
Yeah.
And so what we play mostly is what we remember. So the first thing I always tell people, you have to listen to this music to know what it's supposed to be like. You can't just look at it on a page and there's no sound to that. You have to listen. So the first thing that's on the list is, in conjunction with your practicing, you have to listen to records. And I always start my students on Chet Baker because he's so accessible and he had no agendas when he played. He wasn't trying to compete or win any trophies or get on a cover of Downbeat or anything like that, Like these jazz polls now, the big Downbeat jazz polls out there, and I get people sending me like emails and asking me to vote for them. I don't even know who they are. Yeah. Oh, I like people with the name Dennis. Okay, I'll vote for him, or something. And I don't think we should have trophies and things like that. I don't think so. They're all made out of plastic anyway.
Well, it's interesting to listen to you speak about all that because I, of course, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, and how does this apply to singing? And one thing, singing is a really weird instrument, because it's you're part of your body. So you kind of take it for granted a lot, And then when you're learning to sing and when you're learning the ability to sing and to make music with people and get in front of people and all that, you usually focus on the wrong things. How do I sound? I like that idea of having your attention in instead of out, right? You really need to have your attention out. And so like what you say, what you were just talking about, there's like a focus, and I've been working, this has been coming up actually recently in just my own thinking about music and my own practicing, is there's a focus in you don't study what you're hearing inside, but you're attached to it. You hear it first. Let's see, I don't know how to describe it, but it's in there. And so it's not something outside here that, Bob, okay, how did I sound? It's not that. There's a whole different method of relating to it and attaching to it. And yeah, it's really interesting to teach singers how to get outside of their own analytical selves,
I swear, there's a thing I kind of printed up as a sheet and I sent it around. It was a realization I had many years ago in teaching. I said that I realized there's basically two things that you can do with music. You can either impress people or you can touch people. So when you start to do it, whether it's a singing or your instrument or whatever it is, think about what your intention is.
Right.
Are you trying to make people like you? Then you need to probably spend a little bit of time in Couch Canyon with a shrink. you know, sort out your issues why you didn't get a choo-choo train as a little kid or something. You know? But the point about it is that I go back every once in a while and listen to recordings I did 40 or 50 years ago or something, and I'm going, oh my God, how embarrassing. What was I thinking, you know? Too many notes, you know, you don't get paid by the note. How many notes can I jam into a measure, and how many double C's can I play? And whole high notes and all of this, you know, it's like waving flags and double pistols and all that stuff. And the trick is to trim away, to figure out what does not need to be played. You know, as you know, it's a form of communication. And so I don't need to suddenly start speaking Kazakhstan or something. I'm going to lose somebody.
Yeah.
You know, and the audience is participant in that performance. And if you communicate to them in such a way that they can't understand what you're saying, check, please. You know, they're out of there. But the point being is, I'd rather touch somebody and they don't need to even know my name. If they walk home after they listen to something and they get in the car and they say, gee, wasn't that beautiful the way that guy played that ballad or something like that, brought tears to my eyes. If I've done that, I don't care whether they know my name or not.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm okay. I'm fine. I don't really need somebody to like me, you know. I mean, I like to be liked, and I like people too, but I'm not trying to force that issue, you know. But I don't need to go out and create friends and create trophies. The only trophy that I own, well, there's a couple now, but the only trophy I ever earned in my life was for bowling for the Army bowling team. When I was in the military, I got a bowling trophy. It shows a little guy with a ball going. But when funny thing, when I was doing studio work out there in LA, Jules Shakin walked up to me in a session one time, and he said, "Hey, Bobby, you know your album, it's got a Grammy nomination." I said, "What?" He said, "A Grammy." I said, "What do you mean Grammy?" I said, "My Grammy died years ago." You know? He says, "Don't you know what a Grammy is?" I says, "No." I didn't have any idea, but the Outstanding in His Field album I did with my quintet with Gordon Brisker and Bill Mays and Bob Magnuson and Dick Burke, it got a Grammy nomination. And it was one of the 5, and it was I didn't even know what it was, and they explained it to me. He said, "Good God, Shew, you got to wake up," you know. And so it was the year, the 5 albums. I don't remember what they all were, but Bill Evans had just passed away, so his album won. And I could tell you this, that if they'd given me the Grammy instead of Bill Evans, I knew they were stupid. You know, it was Bill Evans, for God's sake. What are you talking about? You know,
yeah, but I'm sure your record was good, though.
Well, I mean, yeah, but it doesn't need, I don't, you know, people sometimes like do an album and they used to call me up and say, "Hey, send me a copy of your new album. I want to review it." And I said, "Well, it doesn't need reviewing. I was in the studio. I was there when we recorded it." I know what I said. Look, if it was lousy, I wouldn't have released it. I feel it honestly represents who I am at this point in my life. I'm not a perfect player. I'm not Freddie Hubbard. I'm not Miles Davis or anything. It just represents me, you know. And if I think it sucks, I won't release it. You know, I've got a whole files of stuff that sucks. I'm not never letting anybody hear that. Matter of fact, I'm gonna set fire to it right when we finish. I don't like jazz polls and ballots and prizes and awards and things like that. I think they interfere. They add a significance that's totally unnecessary.
Yeah.
And you know, they always when it's like when somebody a contest, you know, if you have 25 bands coming to a college for a contest, and you judges all do this and that, and you pick a winning band. Well, you got 25 bands there. You get one band that thinks it's God's gift to planet Earth, and 24 bands that think the judges are deaf.
Yeah.
What? It's both of them. Both products are wrong.
Yeah.
Why not just, you know, like validate everything that everybody's doing and congratulate them for being smart enough to take up a musical instrument. It puts them a notch above everybody else immediately, you know? It's the fact that the average
Yeah.
person's never going to get a chance to tap into the prefrontal lobes and the creative parts of their brain, just unless you take up music of some sort, you know? So, especially
Music is so, it's so much a part of our lives that, I mean, all of us, I mean, not just us who are doing it, but it's just so much a part of everyone's lives. It takes up a huge portion. People are always listening to music and always hear it and always, they're thinking about it in various ways. It's really an amazing piece of life.
Well, yeah, I've done a lot of reading about the going back through this and so forth, but it's an ancient form of prayer, is what it is. You know, chanting, and then the muses, the nine muses, and so forth. They connect with different, and erato is what we're looking at for us. And so when you it's when you have music, muse, you're connected to a spiritual connection, a part of you, to part of life in general. And so in ancient times, people chanted and so forth. If you study, I did a basic linguistics course on DVDs through Stanford University, and 36 lectures, 36 one-hour lectures on linguistics. It's my hobby. You want to see crazy? You see that bookcase right there, right? That thing?
Yeah.
All dictionaries.
Wow.
All dictionaries. All kinds of languages.
Huh.
Okay? That's Bobby's hobby, is linguistics and languages. And I don't speak a lot of them. I mean, I'm clumsy with a lot of them, including English, but I study etymology, where the languages came from, the sources
Yeah.
of words and things like that.
Yeah.
And so I'm a real pain in the ass to a lot of teachers when they stand up there. I heard a trumpet player in the military way back in the 60s. He walked up to give a trumpet class, a clinic, and he walked up there and he said, "I'll tell you how to play the trumpet. You've got to be totally relaxed at all times." And I went, "What?" Totally relaxed. Now, total is an absolute, isn't it?
Yeah.
It certainly is. And so Einstein says there are none. In a universe of atoms and molecules, you cannot have an absolute. Everything is in motion. So that word's out of there. Relaxed. I said, "What the heck is the word relaxed?" Well, I looked it up in several dictionaries, and I have a copy over here of the first Webster's dictionary that was ever released in the United States in 1820s.
Oh, wow.
And I paid $450 for it in 1968 just to
Wow.
have it, because you look up a word in that period, it's compared to a current Merriam-Webster or something
Yeah.
right now, and the word meanings have changed and been altered so much. So
Huh.
the word relax, it means essentially to get rid of unnecessary tensions. But I chased it back even further than that, and I went back to source, and it took me years to find it, but check this out. The word relax, is a prefix. It means again.
Yeah.
Lax means a failure. How is he on the job? Oh, very lax. We're going to have to let him go.
Oh, yeah.
So in 1323, there was a medical journal that created the word relax because a person died because a kidney kept relaxing. It was lax, and then it relaxed, and it relaxed until the person died. That's the source of the word relax. So
Wow.
that's the beauty of linguistics, you see. Why do I get excited about this? This is better than porno.
Wow, that's amazing.
But the thing about it is, if you tell somebody to be totally relaxed, well, basically, start with that and say, "Oh, well, first thing you're gonna do is drop the horn, then
Yeah.
fall out of the chair."
Yeah.
You go into total relaxation, it means dead. Oh no, because cells keep manufacturing hair and changing cells and growing fingernails for probably another 9-10 months. Well, maybe cremation, that would be total relaxation. So this is why I'm such a pain in the butt for people, because when you teach, think about the words that you use.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
person has to try to duplicate that. If you throw an apple and the guy catches it and thinks it's a banana, well, you can't remember whether he's supposed to go left or right. You've misdirected him with with language, and so it doesn't need to be
Yeah.
complicated.
The
So
thing one thing I love about teaching is actually figuring out what the person is thinking, what the person is seeing and thinking and feeling. And you can't shove your own opinion down into their gut. You have to actually hear and see, visualize what they're going through. Then you can build an approach way out from from where they're at, right? That's something that fascinates me about teaching.
well, I agree completely with that. And the thing is, when when I remember a student I had years ago, lives down in Tennessee now, but I asked him to play a glissando from an F at the top of the staff up to a high F, and he turned to do it, and I could sense something. And I said, Tom, wait, don't play. What are you thinking? He said, what do you mean? I said, were you thinking I don't think I can do this? He says, do you read minds? I said, well, I just read yours. I said, then the reason I'm not busy with my own. I'm just paying really close attention to you.
Yeah.
And I felt you kind of negate your ability. I could feel this dark vibration hit the room somehow or whatever, And if you pay really close attention, if you're in the moment, very mindful with the students, you can be very sensitive to what they're sensing just as what you're saying there. You have to being mindful as opposed to mindless.
Yeah.
Being in the moment is a very important thing, not only the teaching, but as a player, and especially,
Yeah.
I have a little yoga breathing drill that I use for my students it's a mindful thing to get them in the moment before they even warm up. Because if you're not in the moment when you warm up, you're not really paying attention. You're like thinking about next week or hoping you didn't get last week's chops or something,
Yeah.
And if you're in the middle of practicing and you find yourself worrying about the future or the past, which are both illusions, as we know,
Yeah.
you have to stop and do the little breath and get yourself back in the moment again, so that your functions in the practice room or playing or even on the bandstand if you have to, but get in the moment, it's best.
Yeah.
It's not, there's no such thing as perfection,
Yeah.
but let me show you, let me show you a last page. You'll appreciate this, I think. But this is, it's not really a method book. It's something I've written. It's called a basic study guide. And this is the last page. The pursuit of excellence is gratifying and healthy, okay? The pursuit of perfection is frustrating, neurotic, and a terrible waste of time.
That's great.
Yeah, so the thing about it is you just have to approach the whole learning process like move ahead an inch at a time or a penny at a time or a nickel. Some days you get a quarter. Some days it's a $10 bill. And every once in a while, the Franklin flashes in there in front of you, But the point about it is you got to keep moving forward a little bit or you start slipping backward.
Yeah.
The static doesn't exist. You can't stay the same. You'll slip back if you do.
Yeah.
I've seen it happen. It says, oh, what's old age, And for me, I mean, I've had a lot of people say, Bobby, God, I can't believe at your age, you sound better than you did last year. Sorry. I'm not supposed to improve.
Something a few years ago, I was talking to Larry Koontz, the guitar player,
Oh,
and I was asking him what he was playing these days, and he said, Kath, I'm playing what I have to play with joy. That changed my life. It was all of a sudden I started practicing with joy. And then I read in Deepak's book about, or maybe it was Elizabeth Gilbert's, but anyway, curiosity being the creativity, curiosity being creativity. And so with those ideas in mind, because a lot of times, as we know, people, players and students will play with a different point of view than that is, without the curiosity and without the joy. I mean, that's why we're doing it. And if you don't practice it, whatever you practice gets better, right? So if you're practicing worry, that's getting stronger, right?
That's what I was saying earlier about the imposition of the mistake into
Yes.
education, and it puts people in the wrong. It puts them in the amygdala that takes dominance in their brain, and it's the fear factor. It's like the adrenaline pumps, and you get afraid that you're going to miss a note and you're going to be ostracized or graded or something like that. They should take all the grades out of school. There's only one grade, pass. You know, I mean, you either can do it or you can't do it. And,
Right.
and if you can't do it, you need to work on it a little more. I mean, I wouldn't want to go into surgery with a doctor that made a D. You know,
Right. Yeah, I failed this class, but I've been doing it for a while.
I want to tell you a little funny story about this whole thing, because I had this one little girl trumpet player student many years ago, and she was about 15, I guess, and she was learning improvise, and kind of shy and this and that, and her parents used to come to her lessons and sit and make sure I didn't accost her or anything like that. Good God. But anyway, after when she got old enough that she was able to drive here by herself, and they trusted me, so I had her play a ballad. I had her play, I think it was My Foolish Heart or My One and Only Love or something like that. She started playing and she went da 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 da. I went, holy cow! Stop a second here. I said, what does this tune mean to you? And she says, oh, I don't know. I says, do you know the lyrics to it at all? Have you ever read the lyrics? She says, no. So it was in a Jamie play along. I opened the book, and then he's got all the lyrics up in the front of the book. So I had her read the lyrics to My One and Only Love. And as she's reading, I says, read it like it's a poem. And she's reading it, and all of a sudden she started to cry, and tears were going down her cheeks, She went, oh, that's so beautiful. I said, now play it. Your heart is full of emotion. Now you understand what you're playing. And that's what Lester Young and Billie Holiday used to talk about all the time. Learn what the song's about, learn the lyrics, learn to sing it. And I tell my students, you'll like this one, don't play without emotion. You'll learn to play that way.
Yeah.
And so I do a funny little demonstration. I say you're playing like you got to play with some emotion. So it's maybe the F scale. All right, ta 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 ta. Okay, fine. Okay, so that's like bullshit. Who needs that?
Yeah.
So pretend. Look out there's three. Let's have three emotions. Let's pick three: sorrow, anger, and happy. Real simple ones, So let's say you look out the window and you go, oh my God, that neighbor run over my cat. Oh, I love that cat. I love that cat. I'll play the F scale thinking about that dead cat. Oh, no, no, no. Oh, yeah. Okay, you do that. And then you say, that son of a gun, he's an idiot, that neighbor of mine. I'm gonna kill that some bitch. I'll play that scale that way. Okay, and then you go, oh, wait a minute, that's not my cat. Yeah. I do that in clinics sometimes to demonstrate the value of just look at some emotion about something that you're going to play. If you just play a scale just like a typewriter, it comes out like that.
Yeah.
People say, check, please.
Yeah. Check, please.
So the idea is to learn to play even every little piece of music. When you're playing the second movement of the Haydn trumpet concerto, think about the emotion that would go into that. It's not like da 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 da. It's like, oh, it's romantic, I love, oh, I love you, oh, or something. But put some heart and soul into what you play.
Yeah.
You don't have to have a million technical skills. All you have to do is have a heart and soul about what you play.
Yeah.
That's where the music comes in. It's the spiritual side. It's the old ancient prayer form that we all remember from like civilization way back in the Neanderthal period or something
So
back.
important to remember that. There's so much crap in between, that oh, shit, man. Yeah. Hey, by the way, another trumpet player friend of yours is on.
Who's that?
I'll give you a hint. His initials are GG.
Was it Gary Grant?
Yeah.
Mr. Palm Springs.
Gary Grant. Talk about old Dante days.
Well, it could be Greg Gisbert too, you know.
Oh, well, or Grant Geisman, but he's not a
There you
trumpet
go.
player. Yeah, I know. It really is. I mean, I always tell my students that it's, if not more than 50%, it's 50%, philosophy. You're not going to get away from that. So, you could, great, learn how to read and learn all the tricks and the licks and great, wonderful. But don't forget, man, 50% philosophy.
Well, I think one of the things that I realized all the years that I was doing studio work, I had an awful lot of fun in there and doing stuff and sitting next to people like Gary and so forth like that. We had some wonderful times playing and all that. And I was always honored and thrilled and humbled to be able to go into a session and sit next to and see Bud Shank and Gene Cipriano and people like that, Tom Scott and all these guys around me. And I'm going, wow, Shelly Manne on drums and holy cow, Max Bennett and everybody. But the thing was, at the end of the day, I thought, what the hell did I play?
Yeah.
Mork and Mindy and Happy Days and Eight's Enough and Love Boat. And I'm going, there ain't 8 bars of music in the whole damn day.
Yeah.
There's nothing there I want anybody to hear me play. I'm not proud of any. All I'm happy about is that I didn't mess up and I played the parts and they got recorded and they were happy with it and I'll get a check.
Yeah.
But there was no emotion. Didn't come home full of like spirit of music and felt like I'd really, oh my God, I've been in touch with I've been in tune. I've been, with my muse. And you could make $1,000 in a session doing a pre-record for Sonny and Cher for a couple of hours and then go in and play all night at Dante's for $25 and then 75 at the bar.
Right.
but the thing about it was, the music, if you really get connected to the music, it's the strongest thing you can possibly get connected to. I mean, it's the one driving force that has made me the happiest guy in the world that I did that. And I studied to be an architect in college, but I didn't last it. I got drafted. And so I just said later with it, and I don't want to be an architect, and I definitely don't want to. I know a lot about the industry now, and there's some good architects out there, but I wasn't going to be Frank Lloyd Wright or Mies van der Rohe or somebody like that, I just didn't want to do like office buildings for the cheapest, lowest bidder,
Yeah, yeah.
So,
hey, Bobby, did you have somebody early on who was a real mentor to you?
not really. No, not so much. I mean, it was mostly through recordings and stuff like that,
Yeah.
I mean, I was very fortunate in being able to play gigs very early, starting at 12 years old, and
Yeah.
all the way through school, junior high, and even my 12th grade and so forth. But I mean the 6th grade, from there all the way through. But being on the bandstand there, I just went home and listened to people like Kenny Dorham and Miles and Clifford and things like that. And it was what I got from those people. There were some good players around town, but not really great jazz players around here, not so much.
I mean, I can't even imagine how many people feel like you're a mentor to them. You've touched so many lives, and and I mean, when I think about that, I think more about who you are as opposed to just your playing. It's who you are and how you share yourself and share ideas and bring people up. So I mean, I want to say that I know everybody who's listening who knows you knows that, but I just want to say
You
that.
know, I'll give you a clue. There's a guy by the name of Maurice Varnado. He was a band director in Lafayette, Louisiana. And he brought me to his high school in 1968. And very sweet guy. He passed away a few years ago, sadly, but he was he was just really nice. And, you know, he gave me a transcript of a lecture by Gustav Holst at Yale University. And to paraphrase a little piece that was in the lecture, Gustav spoke very highly about the arts. And there's this one little thing he said in there, it's paraphrased, it's not really verbatim, but he said that basically anybody who gains any degree of success in the field of the arts, especially in music, owes it to the next generation to do 180, turn around and show people what you've learned and how you've learned it, so that it helps them come up. And he said, and to not do so is a crime of omission. And I went, ooh, that hit me in the face like a wet rag, you know? And I went, crime of omission, Jesus. That's like, you see a lady that needs help getting across the street and you don't do it? Where's the sense of ethics about that, you know? And that hit me in such a way that I realized, rather than taking, you know, you come into life and you accumulate and see what you can take away from life. No. Why don't you see what you can contribute, you know? And that's a nicer feeling for me. And my life as a player, I've had and I'm still having, I mean, my career is different now because I'm not going to travel and play all over the world like I've been doing. But I can look back and see all the bands I've played on and all the wonderful people I've stood next to. Dizzy Gillespie is my daughter's godfather, you know. I mean, how cool is that, you know? And being able to sit and hang out with people like Phil Woods and Al Cohn and then even just hang and watch. I used to sit and watch TV with Buddy Rich. It was his favorite show was, oh God, what was that Army show that used to be on with Dick Morrow? Combat, I think it was called.
Combat, yeah.
I think it was called Combat. Vic Morrow was the star of the show. And
I
Buddy
remember
Rich,
that, yeah.
he was late to gigs sometimes because he had to watch the end of the big one. But, you know, being able to hang with those people, I've had a great life, a career of playing with some of the great people and hanging out with them. And I've done some nice recordings and learned an awful lot. And, you know, it's met some wonderful people. And I feel very wealthy in regard to what the music has given back to me in so many ways. And so if I can help other people have a life similar to mine, you know, why not help them?
Yeah.
You know, well, it would be cruel not to do that, you know?
Yeah.
And when I see, and what happened is the 64 years that I've been messing around with trying to teach and help kids play, I've seen so much problems, and a kid would come to me and he's completely in the wrong path. And I say, who showed you that? And I say, oh God, you know? And so I decided many years ago when I started studying more about the medical things and being able to show the science. I've had 46 years of affiliation with Yamaha too. And I've helped design horns for them and mouthpieces and things of that sort. And they've been very gracious and helpful. And there's this guy, Bob Malone, who's one of the genius tech cats on the planet, you know. And I've learned so much about acoustical physics and things of that from working with him and other tech people with the company. So there's always this learning thing, you know. Yeah. And when I learn something, I like to pass it on.
Yeah.
You know, I'll learn something, I'll write an article about it and give it to the kids, you know.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I think that's the name of the game for me, and I'm very pleased with that. And it's just I think we need, in this world, we need much more. I think we need more education, and therefore we need more ethics. And you can't have ethics without the education. You know, you won't even understand what it is. It's decision making. You know, it's not the 10 Commandments or anything like that. It's just learning to make the decision the greatest good for the greatest number. You know, and things of that sort, isn't it? You know?
Yeah, it is. And I always I've felt for many, many years, I've realized that everything can be solved by being able to confront something and take responsibility for it. If you can do those two things, there is no problem that
Exactly.
no can't be handled. None.
That's the first step in improving your playing is confrontation, you know. Be honest and humble. You cannot learn in the absence of humility.
Yeah.
Impossible.
Yeah.
And anytime I see somebody with ego problems, which is basically defined for me as self-importance,
Yeah.
that comes from that mistake bullshit that they teach us. Don't you miss a note now, Bobby. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
everything becomes so important that I have to be good. You know, you don't either. The whole planet's not waiting to hear about Bobby Shew. They don't. Most of them have no clue who I am and don't care. And that's the way it should be. You
Yeah.
know? But the thing about when you see somebody with all those ego issues about trying to prove their worth to somebody, you're seeing tremendous amount of insecurity, and that's first semester psychology. And that's psychology 101. You get it in the first semester. Arrogance and all of those things, that's insecurity. That's a very troubled person.
Yeah.
We're talking Couch Canyon again, you know.
Couch Canyon. Hey, I'm going to end soon, but I wanted to read what Matt Leader said. You know, he's a college teacher and he plays professionally. And he said, you once stated that back in the day you had to be somebody, the record, a record. I'm not sure what he said here. You have to be somebody, the record, a record, and now maybe to make a record. And now anybody can, but that doesn't mean you should. He told me he told me also to truly make a difference in the music, you need to start at the lowest level, elementary school, to make real change.
Well, I mean, when I was growing up, well, I see kids now doing albums I have an album here by a little kid. I won't mention his name. I don't think he's playing anymore, but he's from the Bay Area, and he did his first album when he was 12.
Uh-huh.
And his go-getter father pushed him into the studio, and he was a really good little player for 12 years old.
Yeah.
And you hear this thing, and he's going, holy crap, I can't believe he could play that well at 12.
Yeah.
But still, why does he need to do an album at 12? You know, and you see all these kids like growing up, you know, there's a lot of them, these little, what do you call them? Amazing little talents that are 12 years old, 10 years old, 9-year-old. Well, you know, while Mozart, okay, he was a genius at 5 years old or something, you know, but we don't have to get everybody in and start doing albums in their teen years and stuff like that. For me, I never dreamt of doing an album. I thought I should wait until I'm in my late 30s or 40s to do my first album, you know, because I thought only really good players do albums. But now it's like every little teenager does them. They'll have a kid in a set of diapers in there in the recording studio next, you know, and peeing his pants and farting and stuff like that onto a record. You know?
Yay!
But I don't know. I mean, the thing about it is, it's a moment of pride to a lot of people to get that album out there and say, you know, buy my album, you know.
It's a different concept right now, you know, and not to mention who the hell is buying them. You know, I mean, you know, that's a whole rabbit hole in itself, you know.
Yeah.
But
you should see all the crates of CDs I got over there. They're stacked up, thousands of them.
me too.
Nobody buys them anymore. That's all right. We'll find something. We'll use them for coasters or something like that. That's
The only reason I keep mine, really, or almost the only reason, is because I still go to Japan, and they buy them in Japan. Like I'll sell 50 to 100 CDs when I go, so that's, you know, a nice little addition to money when I go over. But other than that, I don't know, you know, it's hard to understand why I got 1,000, except for my, you know, my money considerations. You know, it's like 1,000 is like so much less than if you get 900 or.
Well, I mean, it's you know, Chick Corea and I had a long conversation many years ago about albums, and he said they're like a sonic business card.
Yeah.
You know, it's got, you're handing out a business card with your name, address, phone number, and email on it. This one's got soundtracks on it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you take people, if they'll pay $15 for your business card and take it home, and they keep a piece of you in their house, and they talk to you every once in a while, or let you talk to them. But I mean, I like doing them. I mean, you can't believe there's 15,000 CDs in this room right here. I mean, easy. I mean, just take a look. Let's see. You see those racks there?
Yes.
Each one of those racks holds 2,500. And there's 3 of those racks, and then there's another quadruple rack over there, and then there's at least 6 boxes of CDs. And college kids and college bands and military bands, they send me CDs every time they do one. I don't have the time to listen to them all.
Yeah.
I've got piles of them. I must have 600 I've never even heard.
Yeah.
Just in boxes, I don't know what I'm going to do with them all. I'm taking my vitamins, but I don't think I'm going to live that long.
Well, you just answered my question. I wanted to send you, some of my record with Andy. So I'll send you one cut at a time, and then every few months I'll send you another cut.
Well, are you going to send them MP3s or something like that?
I can, yes.
That's fine. Yeah, I do listen to them when I get a chance. I do. I listened to the one you sent me yesterday, the "Make Me Want to Holler." Or was it?
Oh yeah, my single.
Yeah.
I
listen to it. It's a painful thing to watch while I'm listening to it. Was all of the strife that's going on, and Trump's getting ready to send his federal hoodlums into Albuquerque now because.
Really? Albuquerque?
Yeah, I live far away from the city. I don't know what's going on in there, but we see it on the news every once in a while. But they get these people in there that are trying to they're militant people. They're just they're troublemakers. They're not solving any problems. The racial thing, is very difficult for me because I'm a multi-race person, and a lot of people don't know that. It doesn't show up in my skin or anything like that. But I do have. I'm mostly Italian. Shew is an English name, and I have nothing to do with it blood-wise. And my biggest line of blood, way over 50%, is Italian, and I have way over 30% Native American blood. That's Asian, and I have East African blood, and that's from my Native American ancestors' cohabitation with slavery. And so I've got all that, and I've got a little bit of Irish and a little bit of German. So I'm the blue plate special, and I married a Hispanic lady, So look at my daughter; she's like the blue plate special, And I'm very sensitive to any kind of racism. I don't understand why people can't just accept the oneness of humanity, That's the one thing when I was hanging, with Dizzy when he was alive, he was around all the time and coming over my house and stuff. But Dizzy was a Baha'i into the Baha'i faith a bit. And, he used to wear a shirt that said "One Planet, One People," and I couldn't agree more,
Yeah.
And I have, when I had a couple of black players in my group when I was 15 years old, and I got ostracized for it. Because I thought, you'll never get any gigs if you have those black people in your group. And I thought, what are you talking about? I mean, you hear how they play? I mean, the hell are you talking about? And I grew up playing with an awful lot of Navajos and Apache people around here too, and Hispanic people. It does make absolutely no difference to me.
Yeah.
It's a person what they do with their life. I don't care what color they are. I always wanted to marry a green chick, but I couldn't find one. Green was my favorite color. I looked, I found a lot of different ones, but I couldn't find a green one. So I married it. Hey, I'm going to have to go here in a minute because I
know. Well, this is later than I normally go, but you were talking on a roll, and I love hanging out. Don't apologize. I love it. And I'm sure everybody loved it. But I want to thank you for hanging out for so long. And it's just been really great hanging out and talking. And I love you so much.
Well, I love you too. And Cathy, I'm so inspired and proud of what you do, all of the things that you contribute, for
Thank
all
you.
these interviews. And I went to your archives and I looked at all those people there and I went, I don't know them all, but I went, holy cow, look at this, If I had the time, I'm glad I caught the one with Bob Shepard, that was really
Oh, that
fun.
was a good one. Yeah.
He was like in my group for a while, and oh God, I mean, he's a special cat, what a great,
Yeah. That
But
was a great talk.
And I wanted to catch the one with Roy McCurdy because that's one of my favorite drummers in the world, unfortunately, that's the saddest thing for me is moving out of LA and moving here, is I really miss those people. When I used to come out there and do Ken Poston's things, that was my opportunity to hang with the cats, and
Yeah.
But I didn't usually see Roy, and I mean, I love that man to death.
I do too. Talk about class and beautiful ethics and concentration and quality. I know he's.
I heard him in Las Vegas at the Tropicana, playing with Cannonball's group way back in the '60s, But before that, I heard him on the Mangione Brothers LP, the Riverside LP.
You talked about that.
Cannonball produced it, and there was Roy McCurdy.
We also saw a video of him with Blood, Sweat, and Tears, and he was the bomb with Blood, Sweat, and Tears, man. He played the shit out of that.
I remember when we used to play at what was the place? Carmelo's, was it there?
Yeah.
And with Roy and Roy told me a story about years and years ago. He and his wife, they were getting ready to go to bed one night, and they undressed and they stood in front of the mirror, and they were all fat and everything, and they got into the gym and they started working out and got in shape, And so when we were playing like Carmelos and stuff like that, and Roy always was like, he's every ounce of skin on him is tight as a drum. Chicks used to come over and want to squeeze his muscles.
Definitely.
Roy, you got some shit going down, man. Hey, listen, Cathy, thank you so much. This has been, I'm very flattered that you invited me to be part of this. I've enjoyed talking with you because it's, you know what you're talking about. And it's not like being interviewed by somebody who says, how big is Barbara's nose really?
Well, thank you, my darling. I'm really happy to do it. And by the way, anybody listening who's interested, tomorrow I have really a man who's so ensconced in the avant-garde area of music, and he's a multi-woodwind player, Vinny Golia.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that should be a really interesting conversation as well.
I remember when he was a little kid, first showed up in LA. That's
really
Vinny. Oh my God! I remember. Look at this little kid.
He was pretty committed too.
I know he is. He's always been a very active and very productive. Self-producing kind of a person.
Yeah. Well, give a kiss to Lisa for me, and have a great day, and thank you again, and take care of your health. And yeah.
I will. Thank you so much. And thanks to all of you who have shown the extreme good taste in joining us here today. Thank you all. I love you all. Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye, Bobby.